How would you feel if you had people tell you that you're never going to be treated the same as people who are in the exact same position as you, such as the right to vote? Say you're a woman and another person's a man, they get to vote and you don't. How would you feel about that? Or if you are working and a man gets paid more than you just because you're a woman. This is how Susan B. Anthony and many other women felt like they weren't worth much at all. Because of her, I am able to be a working woman with equal rights. She is an amazing woman that I am knowledgeable of from biographies and articles that I have read about her. She made herself a women's rights activist by not only standing up for herself but for others as well. Today in my presentation, I will review Susan B. Anthony's life as a labor activist, a leader of the women's suffrage movement, and a women's rights campaigner. Today I will start by talking about Susan B. Anthony's life as a labor activist. There were tons of women who either were not allowed to work or they would work, but they would not get paid even close to the same as much as men were. In one of her biographies that I read in 1868, she convinced a committee to get a vote of equal pay and work for women. However, a group of men shut it down very quickly. Also in one of her biographies, it states, Anthony tried to establish trade schools for women printers. In New York, workers went on strike. And when they went on strike, she tried to encourage employers to hire women to prove that women can work the exact same as men do, and result, get paid equally. However, it didn't work, but because of her motivation for other women, it motivated them to get this, for women to be able to work the same as men and get paid the same. Next, I'm going to talk about Susan B. Anthony's life as a leader of the women's suffrage movement. The women's suffrage movement was for women to earn the right to vote. Voting is a privilege to do. Today, women have no problem at all going to a voting poll and be able to vote on who they want to vote for in any election. Back then, women were not allowed to vote at all, but they wanted to have that right. In a biography I read, it tells about how in 1868, her and Elizabeth Stanton published a newspaper saying, "Men their rights and nothing more, women their rights and nothing less." They wanted justice for all. On National Public Radio, they state, for 45 years, Anthony traveled relentlessly, getting close to 100 anti-slavery and women's suffrage speeches a year. Isn't it amazing to have a woman fight for your rights as hard as she did? On a website on biography.com, it states, even in her later years, Anthony never gave up on her fight for women's suffrage. She had met with the president at one time and tried to get the right for women to vote. However, it wasn't until 14 years later, after she had died, that it passed for a woman to have that right to vote. Lastly, I'm going to talk about Susan B. Anthony's life as a women's rights campaigner. Women needed to have equal rights the same as men like we do today. Because of her and others, we now all have equal rights. In a biography that I read about her, in 1853, she was working hard campaigning in New York, speaking at meetings, getting signatures, and even lobbying the state legislature. Because of that, New York passed where married women can own and buy property and also keep their own wages. Then after that, she tried to get where divorced women or single women would be able to own and buy property and keep their own wages, and eventually that did pass as well. She was a major asset in getting all equal rights for women. On her website, Humanities, she writes her friend Elizabeth Stanton, "It is 51 years since we first met, and we have been busy through every one of them, stirring up the world to recognize the rights of women." She worked very hard to campaign for women who have equal rights. In conclusion, because of the help of Susan B. Anthony and other women, we now have equal rights just the same as men do. Tonight, I've told you about Susan B. Anthony's life as a labor activist, a leader of the women's suffrage movement, and also a women's rights campaigner. If it wasn't for her courage to stand up for all women, think of where we would be today. We all have equal rights, all of us the same. If it wasn't for her and the help of other women, I don't know if I would be able to be a working woman today with equal rights the same as everyone.